The bell above the diner door jingled, cutting through the hum of old country music and sizzling bacon. Every head turned when a group of bikers walked in, leather jackets, heavy boots, and the kind of silence that filled a room before a storm. At the front of the group was Rhett Carson, the man everyone in Hollow Creek whispered about, the leader of the Iron Wolves. He had a reputation that stretched farther than the winding highways surrounding the town. Some said he'd been to prison, others that he ran the gang to protect the weak. Nobody really knew. But one thing was certain, people didn't cross Rhett Carson. At the counter, Eliza Moore tried not to stare. She'd been working at Rosie's diner for 3 years, ever since she left her old life behind. Her hair was tied back, her voice soft but polite as she poured coffee and smiled for customers she barely recognized. When Rhett took a booth near the back, Eliza grabbed her notepad and walked over. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced a calm smile. "What'll it be?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Rhett glanced up, his gaze sharp but oddly gentle. "Coffee. Black. And a slice of that apple pie, if it's as good as it smells." She nodded quickly, writing it down. As she turned to leave, the sleeve of her uniform shifted slightly, and that's when Rhett saw it. A deep purple bruise wrapped around her wrist. She noticed his eyes drop to it, and she froze for a second, tugging her sleeve down quickly. Her smile faltered, and she hurried back to the counter. Rhett didn't say a word, but his jaw tightened. When Eliza returned with his order, she avoided his eyes. The other bikers joked and laughed around him, but Rhett stayed quiet, watching her every move. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked finally, his voice low but kind. She nodded too quickly. "I'm fine, just clumsy. Hot coffee, tight grip." He didn't buy it, not for a second. Years of reading faces taught him when someone was lying. And hers wasn't just lying, it was scared. After the gang finished eating, Rhett left a $50 bill under the sugar jar and stood. But before leaving, he leaned slightly over the counter and said, "If that bruise wasn't from a coffee pot, you let me know. All right?" Eliza froze again, eyes wide, but she didn't answer. She just nodded faintly as Rhett walked out. Outside, his crew mounted their bikes, roaring engines echoing through the quiet town. But Rhett didn't start his. He stared back at the diner window, where Eliza stood wiping a table, pretending not to watch him. Something about her expression, half fear, half exhaustion, didn't sit right. That night, as rain hit the tin roof of the gang's garage, Rhett couldn't shake the image from his mind. He'd seen too many people broken by someone who claimed to love them. His own mother had been one. He pulled out his phone and called Mac, his second-in-command. "Find out who the waitress is at Rosie's." "The one with the brown ponytail and tired eyes," Rhett said. Mac chuckled. "You getting soft on me, boss?" "Just do it," Rhett snapped, then hung up. By morning, Mac had what he needed. "Eliza Moore," Mac said, flipping through a folder. "Lives over on Route 6, outside town. Works 2 jobs. Used to be married to a guy named Trent Duvall, local mechanic. Divorce was finalized last year." Rhett frowned. "Trent Duvall, that the same guy who runs Duvall's Auto?" "Yeah. Real piece of work. Got into a few bar fights, couple of assault charges that disappeared thanks to some friend in the sheriff's office." Rhett's expression darkened. He'd heard that name before. The man had money, influence, and a mean streak a mile wide. That evening, Rhett drove alone down Route 6. He parked a few blocks away from Eliza's small rented house. The lights were dim inside, but he could hear shouting, deep, angry shouting, and something shattering. His hands clenched around the steering wheel. He waited, jaw tight, as the front door opened. A man stumbled out, tall, greasy hair, his voice slurred. It was Trent. He slammed the door behind him and stormed off toward a truck. Rhett's heart pounded, his instincts burning like fire. When Trent's truck peeled away, Rhett got out of his car and walked up the path. He didn't know what he'd say, only that he couldn't leave things as they were. He knocked softly. There was a long pause before Eliza's trembling voice answered, "Who is it?" "Rhett. From the diner." The door opened just an inch, revealing her swollen eyes and fresh bruise along her cheek. She froze when she saw him, unsure whether to cry or run. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. Rhett looked at her bruises again, his voice steady but low. "Making sure you're still breathing." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You shouldn't be here. If he comes back. I saw him leave. He won't be back tonight." Eliza's lip trembled, her hands gripping the edge of the door. "You don't know him. He always comes back." Rhett took a small step forward. "Then let me deal with him when he does." She shook her head, panic rising. "No, please. If he finds out I talk to anyone, he'll hurt me worse. He's already." Her voice broke before she could finish. Rhett wanted to punch something. But instead, he softened his tone. "You got family? Someone who can help you get out?" She shook her head slowly. "My parents passed years ago. It's just me." He took a deep breath. "Then you're not alone anymore. Not while I'm around." For a long moment, she didn't speak. Just stared at him like she couldn't tell if he was real. Then she opened the door a little wider. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Rhett looked away toward the street. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it. Guess it's my turn." The sound of thunder rolled in the distance as the rain started to fall again. Inside that dim little house, Eliza finally let go, tears spilling as she sank to the floor. Rhett didn't touch her, didn't crowd her. He just stood guard by the door, listening to the storm and vowing silently that nobody would ever lay a hand on her again. What he didn't know yet was that his promise would ignite something far bigger than either of them imagined, something that would tear open secrets buried deep in Hollow Creek and leave the whole town watching in shock. Rhett didn't sleep that night. He stayed parked outside Eliza's house until dawn crept through the fog, painting Hollow Creek in shades of silver. He watched as the first trucks rumbled past on the highway, his mind running in circles. He'd seen plenty of bad men before, drunk husbands, cruel bosses, dirty cops. But something about Trent Duvall burned deeper in him. Maybe because of the way Eliza had flinched when he said her name. Maybe because of his own past, the nights he'd hidden from his father's rage, hoping a wall would be enough to stop the shouting. By morning, Rhett made a decision. When he returned to the gang's garage, his men were already there, cleaning bikes and joking around. They went silent when they saw his face. Mac leaned against his Harley. "What's got you up before sunrise, boss?" Rhett tossed him a cigarette and said, "We're gonna pay a visit to Duvall's auto." Mac frowned. "That's not smart. The guy's tight with the sheriff. You stir the pot, we all feel the heat." Rhett lit his cigarette, the flame flickering against his stubble. "He's been beating on a woman who can't fight back. I don't care who his friends are. I'll deal with it." The garage went quiet. They all knew that tone, the one Rhett used right before things got serious. By noon, the Iron Wolves rolled into town, their engines roaring like thunder. The sound drew people out of stores, kids off sidewalks, even the sheriff from his office window. Everyone knew better than to interfere. Rhett parked his bike in front of Duvall's auto repair, killing the engine. The others followed. The smell of oil and smoke hung thick in the air. Trent Duvall stepped out from under a lifted truck, wiping grease off his hands. His smirk faded the moment he saw who it was. "Well, if it ain't the town's favorite outlaw," Trent sneered. "You here for a tune-up or a sermon?" Rhett walked closer, his boots echoing against the concrete. "You've been putting bruises on a woman who didn't deserve it." Trent's eyes narrowed. "You talking about my ex-wife? You don't know what you're getting into, pal." Rhett stopped just a few feet away. I know exactly what I'm getting into. Trent laughed, but it was shaky. She's a liar, Rhett. Crazy, like her mother. Probably told you I hit her so you'd feel sorry for her. That woman could ruin a man's life with one word. Rhett's jaw flexed. Looks like she didn't need to say a word. Her face did the talking. Trent stepped closer, puffing his chest. You gonna play hero now? You think people in this town give a damn about a waitress and some biker trash? Rhett didn't move, didn't blink. I don't care what they think. I care about what's right. Before anyone could stop him, Trent swung, a wild, clumsy punch. Rhett caught his wrist mid-air and twisted. The man cried out as Rhett shoved him back against the wall, one hand on his throat. Next time you lay a hand on her, Rhett growled, you'll answer to me first. Then he let go. Trent stumbled, gasping for air, fury burning behind his eyes. You'll regret this, Trent spat. You and your whole damn club. Rhett leaned in close, voice calm but deadly. Maybe. But at least I'll sleep at night. He turned and walked away, his gang following. But Hollow Creek was a small town, and by sunset, everyone knew what had happened. That evening, Eliza showed up at the diner, quiet as ever. She hadn't seen Rhett since the night he'd come to her door, and when she heard what he'd done, she didn't know whether to thank him or panic. When he came in later that night, the other customers fell silent again. Rhett took the same booth as before. Eliza brought him his coffee without a word. You shouldn't have done that, she said finally, setting down the cup. Trent's dangerous. He won't stop. Rhett looked up, his expression unreadable. Let him come. She shook her head, eyes glistening. You don't understand. He'll drag you down with him. He's connected, the sheriff, the town council, they all look the other way. Rhett leaned back. Then we'll make them look. He wasn't bluffing. That night, he met with a reporter from the local paper, an old friend named Diane Cross, who owed him a favor. He told her everything, from the assault charges buried under the sheriff's desk to the blackmail Trent used to keep his record clean. By morning, Hollow Creek woke up to a headline that no one expected. Local mechanic accused of abuse, sheriff implicated in cover-up. The story spread like wildfire. By noon, people were gathering outside Duval's auto, shouting for justice. The sheriff tried to control the chaos, but when reporters started asking questions he couldn't answer, things turned ugly fast. Trent was arrested that afternoon, not for the beatings, but for tampering with evidence and bribery. It wasn't the justice Rhett wanted, but it was a start. That night, Eliza sat in her small kitchen, staring at the quiet walls. For the first time in years, there was no shouting, no footsteps pounding toward her. Just peace. When she heard a knock, her heart jumped, until Rhett's voice came through softly. It's me. She opened the door, smiling faintly for the first time he'd ever seen. I heard he's in jail, she said quietly. Rhett nodded. Won't be for long. Guys like him always find a way out. But he won't be coming near you again. Eliza looked down, twisting her fingers. Why did you care enough to help me? Rhett sighed, leaning against the doorframe. Because I've seen what silence does. My old man used to put my mom through hell. I was 10 when she finally ran, and she only made it because some stranger helped her. Never knew his name, never got to thank him. So maybe this is me paying that forward. Tears filled Eliza's eyes again, but this time, they weren't from fear. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. Rhett gave a small smile. You just did. Weeks passed. The town slowly settled back into its rhythm, but something had changed. People started speaking up, about abuse, corruption, all the things they'd once kept quiet. Rosie's diner became busier than ever. Folks came not just for food but to see the woman who'd found the courage to stand tall. Eliza carried herself differently now, her laughter returned, her eyes brighter. And Rhett? He still came by every morning for coffee, sitting in the same booth. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. But there was an unspoken bond between them, something built not on pity or fear, but on respect. One morning, as she poured his cup, Eliza said, "You know, people keep talking about what you did. They say the whole town changed because of you." Rhett chuckled softly. "Town didn't change because of me. It changed because it finally started listening." She smiled. "Still, you started it." He shrugged. "Maybe. But you finished it." Months later, Trent tried to return to Hollow Creek after serving a short sentence. But when he walked into town, no one welcomed him back. His business had closed, his reputation ruined, and every door he once knocked on stayed shut. He left the same night, never to return. Rhett and Eliza didn't become some fairy tale couple, not right away, anyway. They were two people with scars, still figuring out how to live again. But in time, friendship turned into something softer, something that made both of them believe in second chances. On the one-year anniversary of the night Rhett showed up at her door, they rode together through the quiet hills outside town, her on the back of his Harley, wind in her hair, the town lights fading behind them. "Where are we going?" she shouted over the engine. Rhett grinned. "Anywhere you want. Long as it's away from the past." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Eliza wrapped her arms tighter around him. For the first time, the road ahead didn't scare her. And back in Hollow Creek, folks still talked about the day the biker gang leader stood up for a waitress, not with fists, but with courage. They said it reminded everyone that sometimes, the roughest souls carry the gentlest hearts. That one act of kindness had set something unstoppable in motion. It made an entire town believe again, that no matter how dark things got, there would always be someone willing to stand in the light.